Good evening and welcome to a new edition of Urban Sentinel Live. And I'm your host, Reggie Kearney. And we're going to have a great discussion tonight with my good friend, Dr. James Dula. Dr. Dula, come on in. Where are you? Where you hiding at? I know he's backstage. He should be coming in a minute. Seems like we're having. Okay, here he comes.
There he is.
Yeah. How you
Hey.
doing this afternoon or this evening?
I'm doing fine.
Right.
It would nice be if we didn't have a little difficulty along the way.
Yeah, you're right about that. I see you sitting outside enjoying the fresh air today.
Oh man, sitting out by the pool, just living the life of Raleigh.
Oh, okay.
It's all good.
Okay, so how you been doing?
Been doing fine. And yourself?
Just fine. I can't complain.
Good.
I cannot complain.
No, we're still amongst the living, so it's all good.
Yeah, just going through this thing called life.
Yeah.
Looking at what's going on in this world. One of the biggest things is heat wave, that continues to plague us throughout the world,
That's
due
true.
to climate change, but I think that's something we're going to have to get used to.
Yeah.
Because the good old cold days or cool summer days, I think they're a thing of the past.
Well, yeah, you're right. Global warming is here.
That's right. So we might as well get used to it. So, but then when we come back to this country, we just got so many problems. And I think you and I have been talking about the problems that we face, through text messages and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're just going through a lot of stuff right now. And we just don't know if we're going or coming or what, And so it really concerns me. When you look at the political scene, you look at what's going on in our communities as far as shootings and killings and other criminal acts, it's a lot going on. So what are your thoughts, my friend?
Well, it's a changing tide.
Mm-hmm.
We had it nice and smooth for many years, and things were going halfway decent.
Right.
The last 20 years, we have seen our culture going down a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Society.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in numerous discussion groups over the past couple of weeks since the last time we spoke, and everybody's asking what's going on and how do we get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
You saw my latest essay that said in order to get back on track, we've got to change from making America great again to making America faith-based again.
Right.
Because if there's no faith, there's no dreams. If there's no dreams, people don't see opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's a slippery slope that we've got to figure out real soon, especially for our next generation of young folk that's coming up.
Right. Man, I tell you, trying to figure out where I want to start it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at black crime for a minute, okay?
Okay.
And that has really been irritating me here for lately, especially with all these smash and grabs that are going on.
Yeah.
And when they show the video, it's always us. And I realize white folks steal too, so I mean, stealing isn't, we don't have to claim that we did on stealing and stuff. But I think what happened, what's happening now, what I see in our society, especially in the black community, it's like we got to have that expensive stuff. So if we can't pay for it, or we can't find jobs, and they say, that the unemployment rate is climbing in the black community again, where I'm gonna go take somebody else's stuff and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
You're right.
It was like with Ulta Beauty Supply. I think I think it was DC. Where I think it was DC. The store in DC. It was one of the largest cities. I think I read it last week when I was on vacation, and wherever it was in the city, they stole $75,000 worth of stuff. Went into the store and a beauty supply store, grabbed the stuff. Then they went into another store, I believe it was in Montgomery County in Virginia, and grabbed about, I think it was like $15,000 worth of stuff.
Right.
Then today they did catch the perps today out in Montgomery County because I think they had gone to a Saks Fifth Avenue store and somebody tipped them off that they were headed to, tipped the cops off that they were headed to Tyson's Corner, and they arrested them in Tyson's Corner. I think the car had New York tags on it, either Connecticut tags. It was in Impala, and they had $15,000 worth of stuff they had stolen from stores, stolen from Saks Fifth Avenue.
Well, it's one of these things where that's the end result. I think we need to be more focused on the steps that got them there. And, recently, you've heard more and more people from the churches to the community talking about where are the parents, because these children just didn't wake up one morning and say, we're going to go do smash and grabs, we're going to do carjackings, we're going to do those things that hurt our own communities. Now you've got grocery stores in the city closing down, leaving the city because there's a shoplifter robbing them blind. I understand the politicians want to keep them there, but the issue is, how did we get to this point, and what can we do to correct it?
Right.
Dr. W.B. Du Bois, as you and I have said before, the problem-solving formula starts with recognizing you have a problem. And we all recognize that we have a problem in that our children are not practicing what we practice when our elders taught us that it's not right to steal. When our elders taught us that something earned was worth working for. And we went out and we aspired to greater heights because we're going to work and do our best to get there. That's what you and I learned. But a second step problem-solving formula by Dr. Du Bois is to analyze it thoroughly. We recognize we got a problem. We're in the stage right now of analyzing. And I've been in community meeting after community meeting after community across this region. And I finally came up with something. I said, look, here's what we need to do. And it was right after I wrote the essay, Make America faith-based again. Faith-based again. Because we've got to get away from that Make America Great Again, because that's the antebellum period with antebellum thinking, whereas everybody's not included. So if we go back to making America faith-based again, which is what everybody has said, we have to start by taking a look in our own communities. The formula that I came up and I presented it this weekend to several people, last week to several people, and they said, by golly, I think you're right. We have got to recognize what's available in our immediate communities for our children, so that the parents and the children will know and stop saying there's nothing for the children to do. If you take a look at the radius, say a mile or two around your community, and you find out what's available, and you get the parents and the children engaged, then you will be able to say, it's not that nothing's there. You just haven't looked for it. But here's what is available, and then start to get them available, get the churches involved, get the civic associations involved, get the parents involved, and move from that standpoint. But there's committees and subcommittees that are created inside that scenario of faith-based America once again, because it starts with the family, that the parents, the family, the peers, the churches, the whole 9 yards, and that's what we're missing. That formula that brings us all together to work in a spirit of unity. And I'm going to continue traveling and speaking about that so that parents will understand that they're at the root of the change. And I've raised my children. My children are doing great because I was on top of it. But those that did not learn, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your race. We got to get them to come back to understand that when we said, well, I'm black and I'm proud, it was said for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't say I'm African American and I'm proud. That came later. But
Right.
right now, going back, say I'm black and I'm proud. So how are we going to prove that? By working together like we did during the civil rights movements, the 50s and the 60s, because it was
Mm-hmm.
the 70s that stood on that mountaintop after the 60s generation
Mm-hmm.
marched and set in and changed America in a spirit of unity and not individually. And the parents came together, the youth came together, everybody was working together. We need to go back to the future, Mr. Kearney.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, very interesting. But see, I think, like I said, going back to the smash and grabs, because seems like to be one of the biggest problems in carjackings and stuff like that. I just think the young people in our community have just given up, and they really don't care anymore. You
But
know,
did they
they
ever
don't.
care? Yeah, did the
They
parents
can't.
teach them to care?
Yeah, they don't see 20 years down the road or start thinking about where they could be at 20 years down the road. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were just talking about opportunities now versus opportunities when I came along. We were talking about cybersecurity work, jobs.
Mhm.
When I was in college, we used key punch to do data and stuff like that. Okay, you had to understand COBOL and all that kind of stuff, and professor give you some stuff to do. You had to go down to the lab and put it on data cards, bring it back the next class and give it to them and stuff. These kids now have opportunity to make six figures doing cybersecurity. I don't care where you got to pick yourself up from. There's money out there to be made, and they don't understand that. They think because their living conditions aren't conducive uh, to maybe motivating them, they need to motivate themselves and understand there's a lot of opportunities out here for them. If they just reach down and grab them and and take the opportunity to do them, then when you're making $200,000 a year, you can go buy that stuff you want to steal, that you want to smash and grab.
But somebody taught you that value.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what we have missing now. So the child
Mm-hmm.
can't get it if the parent didn't get it, and the parent can't pass it on if they never got it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we have had is children raising children.
Yeah.
That if my peer knows no more than I know, then we're just going to do whatever it takes to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to go back. And you talking about the key punches and stuff. I learned old manual typewriter when I was a young man. But I learned that even on that manual typewriter, if I
Mm-hmm.
when you're typing that letter, uh, every mistake has a consequence
Yeah.
because it misspells the words and it misconstrues the meaning of that word.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, matter of fact, that's how I got my uh, start in life. High school
Right.
type.
Right.
The coach said, "You're gonna learn to type." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a football player." And the coach said, "Well, if you don't graduate, you're gonna learn to type." I learned to
Mm-hmm.
type. I went to the Air Force, finished first in my class, and received the assignment to the Pentagon as the first African American at the highest level of Air Force intelligence in uniform. And
Mm-hmm.
so it all started with listening, following orders, and then capitalizing on what I had learned because my ancestors, my grandfather, my aunts, my uncles, and everybody taught me, said, if you want something in life, it's worth working for. If you work for it, you can see it, go get it.
Yeah.
So then you started college. And
Mm-hmm.
then those were values that were placed in us at the very beginning. These children haven't had that opportunity. We're not going to police our way out of this. It's going to be up to the community to come back together and figure it out neighborhood by neighborhood. What happened in my neighborhood may not be what happened in your neighborhood.
Right.
So each neighborhood has got to get their own selves together, get with the churches, the working groups, or whatever it is, find out what's available in their community, and do like my father and those did when they came back from World War II. They started a brotherhood association. That
Mm-hmm.
brotherhood association started teaching us black young men how to be young men. They
Mm-hmm.
spent time with us, but see, we don't see that today, and we've got so far ahead of ourselves that individualism has taken over, and when individualism takes over, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of need. I might have food and water. Now I'm looking for a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And when that sense of belonging kicks in, I'm going to look for whoever's going to make me happy. If I can't get it at home, I'm going to get it out here with young Joe Buck, who's out here
Mm-hmm.
robbing and stealing and carjacking. And
Mm-hmm.
we've got to get back down to the root cause And because right now all we're doing is addressing the result. We're not looking at the symptoms.
Right. Now, I think one of the things too with the church, I think the church has, in a sense, removed themselves from the community. If they're still, if they haven't moved into the suburbs, they're in the city. The city churches have removed themselves from the community in a sense where they're so scared of the crime that's happening around them, they really don't want to get out there and participate in the community anymore by opening up their doors of the church to different programs, feeding the hungry people, and things of that nature. I think they kind of drawn back, and they feel comfortable behind the walls.
Well, if the churches withdraw to the four walls of the church, then the community is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
We have gotten away from morality. We have gotten away from religion. We have gotten away from the values that made us the great black nation that we have become. Because everything, you and I both know, Mr. Carney, everything started and revolved around the church in every community. Now you
Yes.
have churches closing their doors because people don't go anymore.
Mm-hmm.
COVID really caused the churches to withdraw because people stopped going. Now they look at televangelists on TV and they don't go, if they go at all. And so they're not being able to pass those values on, those moral values, to the children because the parents are not getting it. So
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be a game plan put in place, neighborhood by neighborhood, to do what I said. Look at Dr. Du Bois' formula, and understand you have a problem because it's drugs, carjacking, smash and grabs, loitering, whatever it is in your neighborhood. Try to find a solution by looking at inside out, seeing what's available in the hood, then looking on the outside of the hood to see what's also available, and come up with a viable program for your neighborhood. Because everybody's talking about what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And when somebody presents an idea that says, let's try this because it's worked before, it can work now, then we want to criticize it and go back to the same old thing. Gosh, what's wrong with the children? Well, what's wrong with the children? You're not giving it a chance to try something new.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand Dr. King. What would Dr. King have said? The minister said, "Well, we can't ride on the buses. We want to ride on the buses on the front on equal basis." Dr. King said, comes together and says, "Well, it's always been that way. What are we gonna do?" We would
Mm-hmm.
have never got to a civil rights movement. So we've got to be willing to open our minds up, throw that box away, and try something new. And until then, you're not going to see a change. And and just speaking from a society standpoint, it's got to start from within the neighborhood and the family, and work
Mm-hmm.
its way out.
But don't you feel like the we're going backwards instead of going forward because of the issues that we're having there? With the crime in our communities, don't you feel like that's taking us backwards very fast?
You know, backward, we have never been a crime laden community like it is today.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't that kind of community because we had at that time we had neighborhoods, we had villages that said that's not the right thing to do. We're not going to stand for it. And like I said, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your race. But that's not here anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm looking at is not going back to somewhere we've never been. We've never been here before. This is new territory for us, where
Mm-hmm.
we don't respect our elders. Okay, we don't respect the seniors. That's what I'm saying. We don't respect our seniors. We don't respect our women. We don't respect each other. We have lost our identity, and we've never been that way before. Even during slavery, we had identity. We had pride. We had a sense of unity. We called
Mm-hmm.
each other brothers and sisters all the way up through the 60s and the 70s. But now, none of that's happening. So this is brand new territory.
Mm-hmm.
This is not taking us back. This is taking us to a galaxy far, far beyond. And so I just think that it's time to look at it for what it is, something that's brand new, just like climate warming. Climate warming. Now we said, "Oh my goodness, climate warming is coming." Everybody kept saying climate warming is not coming, on the GOP side. Now it's slapping them in the face, and they don't know. They're trying to change the social issue, trying to change the issue to something else because it's here. They ignored it. So this is the same thing. We are facing a social climate change, and until we get a handle on it and understand that we got to stop searching for formulas and putting the formulas into place where each community can aspire to, we're going to, hey, look, this time next year, we're going to be sitting here and saying, man, what's wrong with these children? What's going on? We're going back, but no, we've never been here before.
Yeah, you're right. Probably saying the same thing again next year. But okay, what about the leaders, the so-called black leaders in the community nationwide? I don't see nothing happening in that arena anymore.
Who are the black leaders?
I don't know.
Neither do I. Because back during the day, and I was in a class, I taught high school after I left the military after 30 years. And I can remember probably my third year of teaching, we had a teacher student conference. And one of the teachers, and this was back in 2000, one of the teachers said, we need to get back to where we have our national leaders so that we'll have a course of action to pursue because we're beginning to lose it. And now this was in 2000. I'm sitting there listening, and the student raised his hand, stood up, and they called on him. And they said, yes, young man, what do you think? He said, we don't need any leaders telling us what to do. We can do it ourselves. I listened to that. I heard that. That was the mentality, that we don't need you to lead us. I can lead myself. I'm independent. I can do it myself. And that was new. We'd never done that before. When I spoke on programs with Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry and Hosea Williams down south, we talked about unity. We talked about working together. We talked about brothers and sisters. And we talked about the babbling brook. And we talked about we've got to get this justice under control and get people to understand that if we don't work together, they're going to lose it. You know when that was? 1980. And now look at where we're at. Everything they said came true. We did not keep our foot on the gas. We lost our churches. We lost our morality. We lost our values. Now it's okay to steal, rob, pilferage, kill your brothers and sisters. Well, kill your neighbors because they used to be your brothers and sisters, but kill your neighbors, take advantage of them. Scams everywhere. It's just sad. So if we don't figure out that we got to stop talking and take a plan of action, then 20 years ago, when I'm gone, possibly they'll be sitting around saying, "What happened?"
Yeah.
What happened was you didn't take action.
Yeah.
Even hey, look, Malcolm X knew you got to take action on something. Dr. King knew you had to take action on something. Even A. Philip Randolph said, "Sleeping car conductors, we need to kill the union and start working together." We stopped working together, and that's what's the problem.
Yeah. These kids, back there, like you said, they got it all wrong. They thought that independent. I think one of the things that happened was they thought because they were able, and they didn't understand the movement because it didn't come up in the movement. So they came in at a time they were born. They've grown up in a time where integration is here. They're able to socialize with whites and other communities, go to school where they want to go at, things of that nature. And they don't understand that we got here because we worked together as a team. Okay. There was no one person trying to do it all by themselves because they couldn't do it all by themselves. Just think if one person had tried to just do the Montgomery bus boycott, just one person, everybody else just kept doing what they wanted to do, would never have gotten where we are today. Okay. And so, I think with the lack of civil rights, a strong civil rights leader at this time, and the lack of preachers, hollering from the pulpit what we need to do in the community, we are at a standstill right now.
What? You had a good point. Montgomery bus boycott was to make the buses equal for everybody to ride on across international and then again interstate lines. On the other side of the coin, we did work in unity, but today they're taking Black studies out of schools. I
Yeah.
taught African American studies when I taught. I talked to a
Mm-hmm.
student this week, and I said, "Well, what do you learn in African American studies?" Well, they don't teach that anymore. What? I said, and they said, by the way, we don't have to learn to write cursives anymore. I said, what?
Mm-mm.
I said,
Mm-mm.
so we are setting our students up, our black students, our people of color, up for failure. You've heard of
Mm-hmm.
critical race theory. We're going to take it out because we don't want to embarrass people. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't want to embarrass people, you want to hide the truth. You want to, and you're not going to teach them to be proud of who they are and where they came from. Who's going to teach that? If we
Mm-hmm.
don't teach that in our own community, it's gone. We got to go back to the days, and I will agree with, I hope we can agree on this, that back to the days of the Black Panther when they said the government's not going to teach it, we're going to have to teach it ourselves. If our
Mm-hmm.
kids not going to get it in school, we're going to have to teach it in our communities. If they're not going to feed our kids in school, we're going to have to feed them in the communities. What do we need to feed them? Education right now,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not teaching African American studies. I've had a lot of calls lately. So, Doctor, can you
Mm-hmm.
come over here and teach African American studies? Can you come over here? Can you? Well, yes, I'd love to, but stop talking and invite me. And so once we get to that point to where the kids can almost have that dashiki mentality that we had in the 60s, where
Mm-hmm.
we're strong people, we came from strong roots. And if we want to be successful in life, it's got to start with me. And then we join together and we spread it out. If you're going to get to that point, Mr. Kearney, we're going to have to start it now. We're going to have to start it in our communities. We learned it too in the churches. See, I went to desegregated. I mean, to segregated schools. When they
Yeah. Oh, wow.
desegregated the schools, they took us away from each other. See, and I
Mm-hmm.
told somebody this the other day. I said, think about it. During segregation, we knew everybody. We knew
Yeah.
your uncles, your aunts, your grandmamas, your grandpapa, and
Mm-hmm.
all of them would talk to you, and they would talk to your parents about you. And as soon as desegregation came, we spread out into four different directions. Now I don't know you. I don't know your children. I don't know who they are. Desegregation took away our power as a unified community. And so now
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing is that strong base. It's almost like the assimilate, like they did the Native Americans. If we can't assimilate you, we'll divide you, and then we'll conquer you.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
we're saying. Have you heard of the Klan lately? Why should they step into here? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
disintegrated from the inside out. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got to come back together.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about 10 years or 5 years from now. If it don't start today, Mr. Kearney, I tell you what, I just fear for my next generation.
Fear for the next generation. We got to fear for this generation because they're gonna kill themselves. They're gonna kill everyone in that generation if we don't start talking. One of the things I have been toying around with and been playing on my mind that we need to develop. Um, we need to develop programs in our community to teach Black history. Okay, that we need to do. And one time I thought about, a name for it would be, we would call it the 1619 Project. Okay. Some name like that to get the attention. Or, we could come up with another name for it. But we have to do something to instill history. Because, like I said, now my daughter's 26 years old now. And when she was in high school, in the 10th grade, I looked at her social studies book. And if it had 2 pages in it on Black history, which didn't include slavery, just some other stuff, that was it.
That's right.
Okay. Now, sometimes I wish I hadn't taught my daughter Black history because she can be a militant sometimes. Boy,
All
Lord,
right. I like your daughter.
Lord have mercy. Sometimes I
We
had to
need to
tell girl,
talk
you
about
better
the
chill
Lord.
out. She, oh boy, I'm telling you, these white folks can get all under her skin. She ready to tear them apart.
Good.
Because I taught her the Black history, taught her the struggles that we went through, and the things that she needs to watch out for in the workplace. But I think that's what we need to do. If it's a Saturday, it has to be something that we can do every Saturday for 2 or 3 hours. And maybe charge a small fee of $10 per kid or something like that to help with refreshments and stuff like that. But you got to start somewhere, okay? Fraternities and sororities need to do the same thing. Elks and Masons need to do the same thing. programs need to develop. If they can't do it, then the community needs to come together and figure out how to do it. Okay, because when you look at a state like Florida, who with that little governor they got down there, he's gotten rid of diversity programs, things of that nature in public colleges. He doesn't want Black history taught. They teaching Asian history, they teaching European history, they teaching the other brown, Latino history and stuff like that. But when it comes to Black history, no. You all don't need to don't need to understand nothing about Black history. We need to be the catalyst in the communities to get this train back on track.
Well, there's a reason for that. I'll say Caucasian people, white folks, fear you as a Black man. And we know that. Down south, you're okay as long as you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
If you get a gun, they're going to come after you. If you get a pistol, they're going to come after you. That's history.
Yeah.
They fear you as a Black man. They fear that uprising. What started this whole movement of the MAGA movement, as you and I have talked about before, was the Southern strategy that was put into place in the 1800s that was practiced by Richard Nixon and Lee Atwater, but they didn't tell you about it because they were addressing social programs that affected you, but they found a way to use messaging to get to get the GOP on board without calling you out by name. So they went against social programs because that would benefit you, that would strengthen you, and so when you look at your history, and that's the issue. If you look at your history, you've always seen an attempt to disenfranchise the Black man. That's why it took 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to give you a right when the Constitution says we all should be equal. Why do we have to have a special amendment to be free? So it's deeply rooted in the foundation of the historical legislation that we are to be second-class citizens and not to rise above a certain level. That's why when the book was written, the rising tide of color, saying that people of color were going to gain in numbers and eventually rival the white man. That's when you began to see the backlash come about. And when that backlash came about, it was saying that, oh no, you're not going to replace us. Remember Charlottesville?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. It came out off of that Rising Tide of Color book, where they said you're gaining in number. The white population is having less birth. The Black population and the Latino population continue to grow. So what do you see now? The legislation that came out that was against affirmative action. Well, you know why that was started? Because it was started because there was false accusations made that Asians were being discriminated upon, and they were not giving fair value in order to get into schools. That was untrue. That was untrue. But they used that as a catalyst to end, affirmative action. Who did affirmative action help the most? Us.
Yeah.
So
It was to keep us out,
it's to
and
keep us out.
Yeah, keep us out.
I told folks 20 years ago, I said, watch out what's going to happen. I said, take a look at your HBCUs. Not seriously, 20 years ago. And they said, what do you mean? Because I'm a sociologist. I'm a social anthropologist and a historian. And I said, just watch it. Because these kids are riding through these white campuses with their music blasting, their pants down to their knees, and they're in public looking indecent. Okay, that's my generation talking. I said, just watch. I said, you're going to start to see money going back into HBCUs, and as soon as they get the new buildings, the new programs, the new curriculums, and all that stuff, then you're going to start to see affirmative action being attacked. And the people I told that in a mass group, they said, oh, no, we'll come too far for that. I got a call. I think it was last year, that says, Dr. Dula, you're absolutely right. Look at what's happening. And I looked at him and I said, I told you so. But you know what? I'll go anywhere and teach Black history. I'll go lecture Black history. I'll go talk about Black history. So anybody on this call says we want Dr. Dula to come and talk to us about Black history, let Mr. Kearney know. And if we don't
Mhm.
hear from you, that means you're not serious.
Yeah, yeah. And so because we've got to have it, and see, one thing Roland Martin said in a recent conversation, he said that the Asians were up here fighting affirmative action, didn't want it, against it, got what they wanted, but they still didn't get anything because these Harvards and Princetons and Dartmouths, they're going to go with legacy.
Yeah,
Okay, so how they going to beat legacy? Okay,
yeah. I've
it's
been
just
telling.
like
Yeah, you're right.
out at the magnet school in Alexandria. What is it, Thomas?
Thomas
Oh, Lord, can't
Stone
think
or
of
something. Or good? No, I
I
don't
can't
know.
think of the name of it right now. But the Asians, okay, the school was already a majority, getting to a point where it was a majority. Thomas Jefferson. It was it's already was at a point where it was getting majority Asian students. Okay, and them Asian students got the Asian boys hustled in when they started cutting back and fixing the programs out there where they could get more brown people, more black people into the school. Okay, so
Yeah.
they got mad about that. What's his name? Youngkin and all those guys jumped into it and stuff, fussing about it and everything, and when the court sided with Thomas Jefferson, but it still wasn't good enough for what, the Asian families want, because they still felt like it would be discriminated against, okay? Now, one thing I found out about it, and I've seen the Asian community is they want to be in our schools because our schools and colleges are the best, okay? Even though we're not where we need to be at, we do have some good curriculums and things of that nature. And they don't have to be, in Japan about to commit suicide because they're trying to be at the top of the class. But we've got to wake up and see all this that's happening there, okay? Because now you're going to see those numbers drop. I mean, I think Harvard only had last year maybe 1,800 African Americans, blacks going to school there. Okay, so it wasn't like affirmative action was getting this opportunity to overrun the campus, and it hasn't in many. If you go back and look at the numbers at all of the predominantly white colleges and universities in this country, we are not overrunning the campus.
It's two things, and you're absolutely right. Uh, Two things. Uh, I'm telling students now, since the GOP Supreme Court has decided that uh, affirmative action is basically no more, they left the door open to put in the essays that goes to the college the opportunity to explain how uh, desegregation, or what is how you're being affected
Mm-hmm.
by uh, racism per se, and it has to be a strong statement in that essay to show how you've been affected. And I'm telling every student I meet, make sure you get a mentor to help you write that essay so that you
Mm-hmm.
can make it strong and they cannot deny you. So on the other side of the coin, that's only because we had the wrong man in office, because those people were appointed by number 45. They're the ones that made that struck down affirmative action.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling people, you got to get out and vote. Let me tell you what's happening in Georgia. The governor in Georgia won by something like 55,000 votes. What did they do in Georgia? They created a piece of legislation that said anybody can challenge any voter,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can challenge any voter. So if Mr. Kearney voted and he voted Democrat, any person in that society can say, I want to challenge his vote. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have to take off work, go in and defend your vote. So
Mm-hmm.
what happened? 100,000 people were challenged.
Mm-hmm.
35,000 were challenged by one person.
Yeah.
And you know,
Six
people can't.
people challenged 100,000 voters.
Yes, and the guy and the governor won by 55,000 votes. They
Mhm,
did that to disenfranchise you and your vote.
mhm.
Now, and that's the GOP that's doing that. So if we don't get out and vote in masses in this next time around, uh, whether who it is, Trump, who's going to probably be indicted by Friday, or DeSantis, who is next in line, or
Mhm.
one of those guys, or Scott, or whomever it is. If
Mhm.
we don't start talking about rallying the vote now and how to get around those states like Florida and Texas and I think Arkansas and North Carolina, those kinds of places where they're screwing the lines. Okay,
Mhm.
if we don't start talking now, 2024, you're going to lose the war
Yeah.
because we've already lost the battles.
Mhm.
And we're going to lose
Mhm.
the war if we don't get together. And we got to be
Mhm.
careful. Trump can be president and sitting in prison at the same time. You know that?
Yeah. Yeah. I
According to
know.
the
I
Constitution
know.
of the United States. And so we
Mhm.
don't want that to happen because what kind of message are we sending to the world if we put an indicted person there in office,
Mhm.
okay, and he has no power? I
Mhm.
mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
So democracy is coming under threat because of the fact that we don't want you to replace us. So
Mhm.
we'd rather tear the whole thing down, but it's simply based on
Mhm.
that premise. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Democracy is the threat.
Yeah, and we already, we already know and see what's going on and everything. Um, and we've got to work hard to put a stop to it, because like I told somebody, I said, if somebody walks up in my line in my face and challenges my vote, they're going to be picking their teeth up off the ground, because I done fought too hard and been around too long for somebody to come challenge my vote, where I live at, I'm in the right precinct and all this kind of stuff. Don't do that to me because you're going to get
And it's
knocked out.
and
You
the thing I don't understand is you got one of the most powerful black communities all of the United States in Atlanta.
know?
How can you let this happen? How can you let this happen in one of the most powerful black communities on the face of the earth,
Yeah.
and you didn't take it up and challenge it?
Yeah, but
That's what got me.
the thing is, we were getting too comfortable, because if you look at Atlanta and the suburbs, they're all connected in a circle. Okay, the outlying areas are where the Republicans had at. Other than Augusta and Savannah, those are two outlying cities that are still strong Democratic cities, but you know. We have gotten too comfortable because we can live and do whatever we want to do. Okay. And what has happened also, and it's very disappointing when you see celebrities and sports figures not really coming out and saying, this is wrong. Now, how many, if you noticed the week before last when the affirmative action was struck down, how many people came out and really voiced their opinion about it? That celebrities or sports individuals? Who
Didn't
did
hear
you
anything. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see a
You,
movement.
you don't, okay? You don't because you got a group of people who've gotten you got a group of people who have made it in a sense. They have millions of dollars. They have two or three homes. Okay, 20 cars. Same thing with entertainers. We support the entertainers because we buy their products and we go to their shows and things like that. And we go to the professional basketball games. They've got theirs. So their thinking is, I got mine. I don't need to get all mixed up in this mud. Get myself dirty.
That's true. It's all in how that goes back to what we're saying.
Hmm.
We can talk all day long, but if you're not willing to take action,
Yeah.
because the third step in Dr. Du Bois's plan is
Hmm.
come up with the possible solutions, and the fourth step is implement the best solution.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I've given one possible solution tonight. Let's see how many people jump on it in their neighborhoods,
Hmm.
uh, because it's not that difficult. Hey, look, where two or three gather, you can start a whole forest fire. All it takes
Yeah.
is a match.
Yeah.
So it's somebody needs to strike that match in their
Hmm.
neighborhood to say,
That's
let's
right.
find out what's here and let's unite this neighborhood and see if we
Mhm.
can't save our children in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And become the model.
Hmm.
And that's what we're
Now,
out.
Mark was asking, what do you think about Reverend Barber as a leader? And I think he's a good leader, but he's not on the battlefield anymore.
Yeah, Reverend Barber. I think he's Professor Barber now.
Yeah, they gave him an endowment at Princeton.
Yeah, yeah. So he's up there with he's a Kanye West and those
Yeah,
guys. So yeah, I think that ship has sailed.
yeah,
Uh,
and I think one of the reasons he did it really was because of his health. I
he got
mean, he,
poor health.
yeah, he's in his 50s, but his
Yeah,
back, gosh, But
yeah,
when he was out there, he was doing it. Okay, and people, he was doing it. Yeah, Sharptons and those guys that were supporting him, but he was out there.
yeah.
You know, he was really out there, and I miss him being out there. But I know too, health wise, and when this opportunity came along, he probably looked at it and said, this is something going to be easier on my body. Going to be easier on my body. And he's a North Carolina boy. He went to North Carolina
Yeah,
Central
yeah,
University. So
yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, he one of my homeboys and everything. And
Uh-huh.
I think when he was out there, he was one of the main leaders that was still pushing. You know,
Well, let's look. I see someone put on here also that he mentioned that our churches don't even talk about poverty, but they sure talk a lot about paying your tithes, don't they?
you ain't
Uh,
lying.
but at the same time,
Raising money.
I look at this. Poverty is one of the root causes for depression, and when a person gets
Hmm.
depressed, they're not going to be able to go out and march on an empty stomach. So
Right.
I think that in order to fill that stomach up with something that has promise, we have to get back to two things, and you and I have talked about it all night:
Hmm.
serving together and then making America faith based again. Because once it
Hmm.
start with faith based, we come rally around the flag, and we start working together in our neighborhoods with whatever nucleus is available. It doesn't take a massive movement in your neighborhood. All you have to do is start
Hmm.
a community interest group. A community interest group is a small group that begins to address the issues in your neighborhood. That's a
Hmm.
community interest group. So we need to get back to that community interest group that they used back in the day, where they may not have followed either one of King or King or
Hmm.
Malcolm, but they followed the pastor who said, "We're not going to stand for it in our neighborhood, and we're going to
Hmm.
work together to overcome this. And we're going to meet in the church on Saturday and start there." But it might be in the rec center. Now it
Hmm.
might be in somebody's basement. Now it might be on in somebody's front yard or somewhere of that nature. But
Hmm.
it's got to start now
Yeah.
in every neighborhood across this country, because there needs to be that. Hey, what do we say? Somebody needs to
Hmm.
strike that match, because we need a forest fire.
Yeah.
We're way
Yeah.
behind. We're way
Yeah. We
behind.
are. We are. I have a friend. Going back to affirmative action. I know this gentleman. He's a Republican, and he's one of the high dollar Republicans. Gives to all of them and everything. And we were talking about affirmative action, but the one question I asked him, he didn't never ask me. I said, "Do you know the history of affirmative action?" And the only thing he could say was, "I know we don't need it anymore. We need to judge everybody on merit." I
Uh,
texted him again. I said, "Do you know the history of affirmative action and why it was designed and why it was needed?" So he didn't ever ask me. So I asked him. I said, "Well, look, in your company, uh, how many executives do you have that are black?" He said, "Well, none." I said, "Okay." I said, "Your company be a good company for affirmative action." I said, "I'm sure you know of people that can help you run your company. They can work in different department." He said, "Reggie, I agree with you." He said, "But maybe when these guys start retiring, I will consider hiring blacks on my executive team." That's that thinking. That's how Republicans think. Okay, they don't want blacks to get too far ahead of the game now on them and everything. We might outrun them, and that's how they. That's the whole problem we have. But like I said, yeah, you see Reverend Sharpton on TV, his program and other programs talking about affirmative action. But when you talk about it, and you talk about the need for Black history, give solutions on how you can talk about it. Don't just cuss DeSantis out because he wants to take away things that are very important to us. Come up with solutions on what we can do to maintain it in our community, okay? And allow our kids to know what Black history is about. Because if you start having classes in your churches and things of that nature, ain't a daggone thing DeSantis can do.
That's right. If you unite, it's because you wanted to not unite to create better causes.
Yeah,
And if you're not serious about doing that, well, we just have to accept what we get.
yeah.
But I really feel uh, uh, concerned about Generation Z and beyond because, as you said, we worked for 400 years to get where we were at.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing this disenfranchisement affect our entire community. And we want to take it back and put it on course so that it will benefit our future. And
Mm-hmm.
our future starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so it's time to start putting plans of action into practice and
Mm-hmm.
stop the rhetoric. The rhetoric we know what the problem is.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and the thing is, uh we just have gotten so complacent. It's a shame that we've allowed ourselves to get as complacent as we are, and we're not fighting back. Because if they see it, because you got these Tim Scotts out here, these Candace Owens and everything that are just, they got the nose knee deep of a white man's butt. Okay, and then I'm just gonna be very, very honest about it. You got Candace, who's always down in the black person, and she's black herself. You got Tim Scott doing the same thing, and I don't know what Clarence Thomas doing. I don't know what he called himself.
Yeah.
He needs to just fall in a box of Clorox, and he'd just be a much better person for himself.
Who is
You
that,
know,
Clarence Thomas?
yeah. But these guys aren't doing anything to effectively help the black community because they buying into the GOP plan.
Yeah. I see that Brother Mark Lee said too many kids don't have enough to do in their community. That goes back to what we talked about an hour ago when
Mm-hmm.
we said that in order to say that statement, you have to do an analysis of what's available in the community for our children. And once you do that analysis, if you find out that there's no social programs, there's no daycare, there's no relevant programs where our kids can get involved, then you can start addressing what they don't have. But in many communities, they found out what they do have. But that study has to take place in the
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood first of all, and then broadcast it to the parents and to the organizations and activities in your neighborhood to let them know what is available, and then have this push to let the parents know this is what's available. Do
Mm-hmm.
you want your kids involved, or you want them in the street? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only two choices you have. But
Mm-hmm.
there, I know in this county, we have 100 mentoring programs. We have we have a number of government programs, but parents say, well, there's nothing for the kids to do. No, that's not the issue.
Mm-hmm.
The issue, you don't know what is here to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that it's a good thing if we do our homework, learn what's in the radius of our community, and
Mm-hmm.
then to advertise it and see if we can't get, as they say in fishing, see if we can't get a bite from
Mm-hmm.
some of the kids to and the parents to get more involved. That's why I say we need to start with African American studies in our community to teach them that they are somebody.
Mm-hmm.
To teach them that they do matter. To teach them that if only they knew where they came from and what struggles were, so that they would get involved, maybe they'll pick up that gauntlet and join together in a spirit of unity,
Mm-hmm.
and start to change some of these things. So you're right at the very beginning. We need to work together.
Yeah, yeah. Mark was saying that they just had over at his center, they just had the Duke basketball players come in and learn the Black Wall Street history. You know, and talking about Black Wall Street, I was really upset that was really upset that the judge threw out the lawsuit of those three individuals, three uh, 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 forefathers and foremothers that concerning Black Wall Street. And I want to plug this book tonight while I'm up here. Built from the Fire.
Oh, somebody struck a match.
Yeah, which talks about Tulsa's Greenwood District, America's Black Wall Street, and everything. I just purchased it. I haven't had an opportunity to read it yet, but I have purchased it and everything.
When I look at Black Wall Street in Tulsa, I look at also what we talked about earlier, is that when you make great gain, there's always a backlash that comes to destroy that gain you've made.
Yeah.
And that's what happened in Oklahoma, because they had self-thriving communities, their own banks, their own stores, their own retail,
everything.
Own self-worth. But it was the backlash that came that burned it down.
Yeah.
And they did it in a spirit of unity. We got disenfranchised and could not fight back. But at the same time, we have to remember that and I'll say this again, that the Black Panthers were successful. They were successful in starting daycare. They were successful in starting food programs, and those things. And it was only their success in teaching our kids in their neighborhoods that they were killed by the government.
Yeah, and J. Edgar Hoover got so scared of them that he caused the implosion of the Black Panther Party by going after them. They weren't doing nothing, but like you said, having food programs, after school, before school programs. That's all they were doing, trying to make a difference in the community. And I told somebody that was white one day, I said, what would y'all do if the Black Panther Party came back, a new and improved Black Panther Party came back to work in the community? And sometimes I think we need a Black Panther Party back. We need them back. Mark was saying, and I know with this, being from North Carolina, I know how Durham was set up, how they rammed the highway right through it. But they did the same thing in DC. When they did 395, they ran it right through the city. And the reason they built the bridges so they could look down on the Black communities when they thought we were getting out getting too far ahead of ourselves, and they could look into the neighborhoods and see what was going on around the edge of downtown, and they could attack from the bridges. That's the only reason that they built these bridges and highways through the towns to divide the community and keep an eye on the community. It was almost like them putting us in a prison without the prison walls.
Yeah. But it goes back to who put those people in office that allowed them to do that. Yeah. If you don't stand up for yourself, it all begins at the ballot box.
Yeah.
And if you don't see what's going on, my father was a politician, a Black politician in a Republican town, but he has the foresight and the wisdom to see what was happening, and he didn't mind standing up for what he thought was right. But a lot of times when he stood up, looked behind him, he was the only one standing. But we've got to get back to where we stand together. And WB the boss that you got to stand tall to.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that. Well, my brother Dula, we have had a good time again tonight discussing the issues that are affecting the Black community. And, somebody got to talk about it, and somebody got to figure out what we're going to do to make things better in this country. Our brothers and sisters across the pond, they keep saying, come to Ghana. Come home. Come to us.
Yeah.
But
they may call me African American, but I was not born in Africa. Africa was born in me.
Yeah,
so, my spirit is as a warrior. I've always spoken my mind. We have came up with a number of solutions tonight, but if we don't act on those solutions, next week it'll just be rhetoric again. I have several places I'll be speaking this week because I'm a man of action. I'll be in the community talking about Black history, about desegregation of the military, at least 3 events this week and several next week, because if we don't spread the message will be lost. So let's work on spreading the message, Brother Kearney. And I
Yeah.
appreciate Brother Mark Lee too. I've been reading his comments, man. Brother's right on. So I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, look, now, who's over there shooting in your neighborhood tonight? What y'all got, shooting rabbits or something over there tonight?
I guess so. We got. I think I'm back in Vietnam half the time with all this stuff going on. But
Oh, boy, our folks. Mm-mm-mm.
it's no, you don't hear anything. It's illegal to shoot those fireworks in our county.
Yeah, okay. They do
Oh,
them anyway.
It's been my pleasure, sir.
Okay, well, look, you take care. And like I said, this has been the Urban Sentinel Live Show with your host, Reggie Kearney. And my guest tonight was Dr. James Dula, who's a leading authority on Black history. And look, folks, we got to teach the kids Black history. That's all it's about. You know, they're not going to learn it in school. So get with your churches, get with your people in your community, form groups, teach Black history, okay? If you need, to learn more about Black history, reach out to me so we can reach out to Dr. Dula and he can come into your facility, sanctuary, your home, and discuss Black history. I know a little something. If I don't know it all, it's on the internet. I'll find it. I'll put together a presentation myself too. But we've got to do something. We can't let, guys like DeSantos or DeSatan remove Black history from our lives. We got to we got to keep the torch burning when it comes to Black history, comes to voting rights, comes to affirmative action. Look, let me tell y'all something, folks. If you don't watch what's going on, next thing they're going to do, they're going to come after our vote. And they're already trying to do that, okay? They see us with power in our hands and they're trying to knock us down. Wake up, Black America, wake up. Until Tuesday night, you all go out and have a great week. Again, thank you, Dr. Dula, for being part of this show tonight. Mark, for your comments. And I'll see y'all next week. Take care. Be good to yourselves, man.
Thank you.